as we understand now a lot better regarding what the United States plans is that the blockade that they have in mind is not a blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, is more accurately a blockade of Iranian ports. So the plan, if you look at actually CENTCOM actually explains this a lot better. It goes into a lot more nuance. So this is also might be why the crude oil prices didn't jump as much as some people expected, because what the Americans are doing is they're not blocking the Strait of Hormuz. They're basically like all the ports on the Persian Gulf, all of them is being blocked, but all the ports on other countries like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, the UAE, Oman, Iraq, all of those ports are basically they're free to pass. Also, any ships that pays any tolls to the regime, they're also going to be blocked as well, right? So let me actually see if we could find the CENTCOM picture here so I could show that to you guys. Let me see. Copy image address. Let me show this to you guys. This is a good image to see here. It's good that everybody here has a good understanding of what's going on here. So you see those red lines there? That is a better representation of the um there we go. Why is this? Where's my there. Okay, that is a bench representation. You can see that east of the Strait of Hormuz, all of that is being blocked, and this is from directly from CENTCOM. And to the west of the Strait of Hormuz, all of those ports are being blocked as well. So any ships basically taking out any oil tankers from Kuwait, Bahrain, Iraq, Qatar, all of that can go through. So if we consider the blockade of the Islamic Republic to just be over here, I don't know if you see my mouse over here, this is the US blockade, right? And this is very significant. If this blockade is successful, is going to be devastating to the Islamic Republic. So it seemed like the first 24 hours of the blockade has been successful. We have also even been the main thing that we needed to worry about was whether anybody is going to try to challenge. There's two challenges to the blockade. One from non-Iranian governments wanting to see if they could just make their ships go through without cooperating with the Americans. And the most important ones here were the Chinese. And I got some news that it seems like the Chinese are complying. And if the Chinese are complying, everybody's complying. But again, remember, this is the first 24 hours. We'll see if it continues, if everybody's complying with the American blockade or not. And we also saw the Islamic Republic in the first 24 hours has basically zero challenges for the American blockade. This is really good news. A lot of people are underestimating how big of a deal this is, because this will really dry up the Islamic Republic resources fast. Again, remember, if the blockade holds. The thing that the Islamic Republic can try to do, if we look at the map here, is that they might want to cause some problems during at the Bubble Mandab. So you can see Strait of Hormuz is up there. The Bubble Mandab is down here. They're too far away from Bubble Mandab to be able to exert any form of influence all the way from there. However, the Houthis might want to help out with Bubble Mandab. It's interesting that the Houthis have not been participating as much as many people expected them to. So we don't know if they want to at some point start, showing some force here. Like I did participate some throwing some stuff at Israel, but that was very minimal. Interestingly, we saw that the George H.W. Bush airstrike carrier group, they're coming to the region. They're getting closer to the Persian Gulf, but they didn't take the Mediterranean Sea, Suez Canal, Red Sea, Bab el Mandeb route to come to the Persian Gulf around Africa, all the way down to the Horn of Africa and coming all the way back up. So they're taking the scenic route, which is interesting. I bet you the Islamic Republic will sell that as a way to show that they are powerful, that the airstrike carrier group has to go all the way around there to avoid the Houthis here. But again, so that might take them some longer time to get to where they need to be. But again, even if the Houthis are not that much of a threat, I bet you they would like to throw some stuff at the airstrike carrier group, and then you would have to waste a whole bunch of missile interceptors on them, which is expensive. So to me, this makes sense. Just wanted to show you guys a few updates so everybody here is on the same page. So you ask like good questions when we get to your turn. So I'll just have two videos to share with you guys, and then after that we could go to your questions. Here, let me play this one first.
Challenging it will be eliminated. Matt Finn is live in Dubai with the very latest for us. Matt?
Good morning, Ainsley. So far, no reports of any major incidents or confrontations out on the Persian Gulf behind me where that American blockade is happening. Now, Fox's Lauren Simonetti reports that a Chinese-owned ship passed through the Strait of Hormuz today with the U.S. blockade in place. It's an oil and chemicals tanker that was turned back yesterday, the first day of the blockade, but got through today with success. Now, this tracks with what the president and CENTCOM is saying, which is that
this being a Chinese ship is very important because that's the biggest challenge there.
But got through today with success. Now, this tracks with what the president and CENTCOM is saying, which is that the entire Persian Gulf is not blocked. Rather, the U.S. is preventing ships from entering or exiting Iranian ports. An Iranian military spokesperson has been threatening possible retaliation for all this, writing, if the security of Iranian ports is threatened, no port in the Gulf or the Sea of Oman will be safe.
So yeah, we have to see if the Islamic Republic is able to challenge this at all. Like, will they be able to do anything significant? Remember, they basically lost most of their navy assets. The most important things that they have right now that is still operational is the tiny speedboats that they have. But so far, the first 24 hours, nothing significant from the Islamic Republic.
The latest report this morning from the International Energy Agency says continued attacks on energy infrastructure here in the Middle East and ongoing restrictions to tanker movements throughout the Strait of Hormuz has led to the largest fuel disruption in history. Initially, these deep cuts.
So they say that, but again, look at this. Brent is 95, which is pretty impressive. After all of this, we're still below 100. I mean, those are high numbers compared to what they were before, but the fact that we're still under 100 is really amazing, because like the fact that they never hit 120 is crazy. We were supposed to hit 200 by now, given that everything they warned about, but that's interesting.
In oil came from the Middle East, had a huge impact on sectors like jet fuel. But if things remain as is, this new report says scarcity and higher prices will persist. Ainsley?
So again, they keep saying that, but if you look at the S&P 500, where the all-time high of S&P 500 is 7,000, and we're basically pretty close to the all-time highs of S&P 500. Year over year, we're up 28%, and you can see that we recovered for most of the losses so far from the military operations. So we're up 28% year over year. We're up 4% 6 months. Like 1 month we're up, 6 months we're up, 1 year we're up, and even 5 days we're up. I don't know, one day we're up. Like there's no time horizon that I could pick that will show us that we're in the red, which is really like this has been the least financially devastating war I've ever seen. So I don't know why people keep saying that the sky is falling. And then there's other. I mean, it might get worse at some point, but so far it's pretty impressive. But this is the second video I wanted to show you, and then we get to your question.
We put our 2 destroyers through. Minesweeping operations are ongoing, John, and you're absolutely right. What President Trump has done is taken that leverage, taken Iran trying to hold the entire world's economies hostage, has taken that off the table now with this action. I mean, we cannot, I can tell you from the United Nations standpoint, live in a world where 2 parties have a conflict, regardless of whether you agree with the conflict or not, and you have, I don't know, a country trying to shut down the Strait of Gibraltar or the Bering Strait or any other international waterway as leverage in a conflict. We've taken that off the table, and that isolates the whole issue to what President Trump has been consistent on since the 1980s, even since before he was in politics. We cannot have a genocidal regime with its finger on a nuclear button. Period. And I've got to tell you, I'm just thankful that finally we have a president who's actually taking bold, decisive action to take care of a problem before it's an absolute crisis and before we have zero options.
All right. So those are my updates. And now back to you guys.
First on the response list, we have Ali.
Hello. I just wanted to remind everyone that this was done by design. We did not prioritize opening the Strait of Hormuz for this exact reason, so that we could recoup the losses, the expenses that we had to take. And it turned out to be correct because all those tankers are now coming to the United States for oil.
Yeah, so Ali, like in response to that, people will say that sure, United States is benefiting from higher oil prices because they're a net, they're an oil exporter, but United States is not just oil and gas is not the only industry in United States. And even though from the oil and for the energy industry in United States, this is profitable for every single other industry, that is American. However, to that I would say that look at the S&P 500, which is heavily presented by tech. So if it's so like, why are we up? Why are we close to the all-time highs? Can you actually make sense of that? Given that most of America's economy is not energy, why is it? And so for energy industry, oil prices going up is increases the revenue. For every single other industry, it increases their cost. So why is the market not reflecting that?
Yeah, so there's two things. The market doesn't reflect it because there hasn't been enough time to drive prices up. It takes a little bit more time than what's been currently happening. But also the S&P 500 is like 40% of it is, I think it's like semiconductors. And semiconductors took a pretty big hit, which is why the S&P 500 dipped, and now they made a huge recovery, so it came back up. The other tech stocks are just kind of catching the wave for now, but in my opinion, we haven't hit the low. I think there's still like a drop to come, but who can really tell? I mean, the markets are really unpredictable.
Yeah, but the stock market is forward looking, right? So the
Mhm.
labor market is backwards looking. The stock market is forward looking. So if something is supposed to happen in the future, is if the analysts should look into that and it should reflect the prices now, even though it's going to happen in the future, right? And also, when it comes to the semiconductors and the tech stocks, a lot of it is now information processing, right? Especially with AI, and that is a very energy hungry industry. So all of that industry should take a hit if energy prices go up, and we're not seeing that. So I actually have to do some research, but those are good points. I just have to do some more research to figure out why we're close to the all-time highs of the market. Do we have any other responses? If they had responses, put another two in the chat because BT is not available. Sorry, Sabina. I just wanted to see.
Okay.
Okay, so we have more responses. We'll go to
Okay.
them and then we'll go back. Okay. So Richard.
Oh, hang on. Hi, Armin. Yeah, I think regarding the market prices and the situation with the S&P, I think it's worth mentioning that a lot of the prices are driven by speculation. They have a habit of being very forward-looking, sometimes beyond current conflicts. It's basically how much you're going to make projected over a certain amount of time. I have heard that they're working on alternatives for oil shipping. The Trans Saudi Arabia pipeline will be expanded, other things that are basically going to provide relief to a lot of that inflation, even assuming they can't fully secure the strait or the northern passage with the Houthis. So that's one explanation as to why prices haven't substantially increased and or the value has substantially decreased.
Wait, can you explain that again? I didn't catch that. Like you're saying, sorry if I didn't understand.
Basically, the U.S. markets tend to be, not just short-term forward-looking, but long-term
Oh,
forward-looking. They're
long
driven
term.
by
Okay.
speculators that
Yes.
basically look at long-term projections. And because they're already working to sort of offset
Oh, okay.
the price increases and the value reduction by alternate oil shipping, that I think I mentioned the Trans Saudi Arabia pipeline that
Right.
basically will
Okay.
bypass the Hormuz, like they're basically anticipating, long term, that this will not be a major effect. That could be one explanation for what's happening with the prices now.
But the Saudi one that you're mentioning, that carries only 7 million barrels a day, which is like not at all the capacity of the Strait of Hormuz. So we have
Exactly.
to
No, this is
also
long term. This is thinking way
long.
out into the distance, years down the road when they expanded, when it could maybe do, 50 million a day. There's a lot of anticipation. That Gulf states, one thing they do have is money. So they can use their money to offset the risk long term by investing in these infrastructure projects and sort of circumventing the situation now.
Yeah, I wonder, like, you would think that they would have built much more pipelines already instead of trying to build like why is this like I don't understand this. So somebody needs to explain this to me. Why do you have this pipeline that has 7 million barrels a day, given how much Saudi Arabia knew that something like this one day might happen? Wouldn't it be more would shouldn't you be building shouldn't you have already increased the capacity of this east-west pipeline rather than building that giant goddamn cube or that like line city? Like, wouldn't that have been a better investment to prepare for something like this today?
It's hard to say, but if I had to guess, I would basically say that projects like that clearly signal to the regime that they're going to be circumventing things like the Strait of Hormuz might have invited aggression and regional anxiety. They would have basically not wanted to tip their hand as to what they're doing. So they basically tried to make the best out of a bad situation. Now everyone's cards are on the table, obviously. There's no hypothetical, in terms of the regime's aggression, so they can make more clear-headed decisions, based on the current, state of affairs.
Right. Also, let's not forget the Venezuela effect as well. Like, we have Venezuela in the market, so that could also be a huge reason why we have more
Yeah, that is
supply than
huge. They're thinking 5, 10, maybe 15 years down the road. So
right. Okay. Okay. I also saw Noah wanted to respond to this.
Armin. And first, congratulations on your name change. I just wanted to say that before
Thank you.
my response. But yeah, in terms of Venezuela, I know a lot of their like producing capacity has diminished a lot, so it's going to take many years for it to go back to where it used to be. So I don't think they can be in the mix right now as it is. But in terms of the East-West pipeline, that was a brilliant move what the Saudis did. I do think they should have added more capacity. Maybe they didn't want to agitate the Iranians, or maybe it was just because they were trying to diversify much of their revenue, since it's all on oil right now, so maybe they just didn't think of it.
It's not
But
that much of a genius move. It's a pretty obvious move, in my opinion. Like, of course, like the Strait of Hormuz could be challenged by the Islamic Republic. Let's make a pipeline go another route. Like, that's an obvious thing you're supposed to do.
I know, but I mean, I think that's the main reason that not gas, oil prices aren't at like 150 right now, because of that. So but I know that go ahead. Oh, I
No,
thought
no,
you were
no.
going
Go
to.
ahead. Yeah. No,
But
no.
I
Go ahead.
do, thanks. But I do know that I live deep in Trump country, and I know a lot of people are, whenever I go to the gas station, they are complaining of how high gas prices are. I've had to, I mean, I don't drive out as much anymore just to save on gas, but I mean, this is only going to be short term, and then once the regime falls, gas prices will fall again. So, I mean, this is short-term pain in order for long-term stability. I think we all need to remind ourselves of that. So
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Noah.
you're welcome.
And let's go to Jeffrey.
So, with regards to like the laggard or the market reactivity, there's two things. You have financial reactivity, which is like instant. That's like, oh, okay, we struck Iran, they're shutting down the strait, we're opening up stuff, we're escorting stuff. So that's kind of instant. Then you have physical supply chain effects. Those usually lag a couple of days to like a couple of weeks, right? Broader economic impacts, such as like higher consumer fuel costs and inflation pass through, usually appear within a quarter, like 2 to 3 months. I mean, as far as like steps that were taken to keep prices down, you have OPEC Plus that immediately released like or bumped up their output quotas to like offset some of that. It didn't offset all of it, including alternative things like pipelines. I'll get to that in a minute. Yeah, the IEA released like
IAE.
IEA or no, not the IEA. Just anyway, there was a
Oh.
coordinated large release of strategic reserves, about 400 million barrels from member countries that
Okay.
designed to like kind of take some of the edge off. And the alternative pipelines, that's UAE, Saudi, Red Sea operations, etc. with regards to why don't they build pipelines, actually, you touched on it. That's one of the issues is, okay, so the Mullah regime knows their control over the Strait of Hormuz are holding at risk is like one of their major cards. And if Saudi Arabia is building a pipeline like to Israel to circumvent all of that, they just pick up the phone and go, hey, Houthi so-and-so, hit it with fucking drones that cost $500, like the Houthis and Yemenis did like a couple of years ago when they were striking a very, well, Saudi Arabia's largest refinery, right? That's the first one. The other one is you have entrenched, outdated tech bundles, or let's just say established techs that are the technologies or approaches, in this case, oil tankers that are the dominant design in a market niche. And when you have those kind of guys go, wow, I have all this investment in oil tankers, and these guys are trying to like build shit that's going to take me out of business. They do things like preclusive purchasing and bribing people. I'll give you an example, then I'll shut up. Like domestically. So within the United States, everybody was like, all the leftists were protesting about, oh my God, you're taking the, Keystone Pipeline through indigenous people's land, blah, 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 blah. Do you know who fucking funded that? It was actually, the leftists were the idiot shock troops, right? It was actually Warren Buffett. It was actually Warren Buffett that funded that. And the reason Warren Buffett funded the protests against the fucking pipeline, Keystone Pipeline, is because he made some of his money on shipping oil over rail. So yeah, that also happens with regards to, that is true. You can look it up. It's empirical fact. That like Warren Buffett funded the protests, and the motive in part was because he was trying to disrupt a revolutionary, disruptive approach, in this case, the Keystone Pipeline, that would have cut him out of transporting oil on rail. Well, that also happens in the Strait of Hormuz, right? You don't think the Mullah regime wouldn't like fund pressure groups to go, oh my God, you're like gonna endanger the spotted tree slug in the desert if you put the pipeline, blah, blah. Of course they do. The number one funder for anti-fracking movements in America and the West for the past 20 years, Vladimir Putin. That's just a couple of things off the top of my head.